We should have turned back when we saw the smoke. The trail was never meant to be open past sunset, but we weren't the type to listen to signs nailed to wood. I had just graduated, Sam was 2 weeks from shipping off to basic, and Liz, she was just along for the quiet. We wanted one more hike before adulthood took over. One last trailhead to conquer. The path started fine, dry, packed, almost too well maintained for how forgotten the area seemed. There were benches, mile markers, even a clean map at the trailhead with laminated warnings about wildlife, fire risk, and outdated rangers' schedules. That should have been clue number 1. The words, "Fire Patrol Suspended Until Further Notice," in faded red. We hiked in silence most of the time, breaking it occasionally with dumb jokes and plastic-wrapped snacks. Then, about 3 miles in, the smell changed. Not pine, not dirt. Smoke. Not cigarette smoke either. No, this was old wood smoke. Charcoal. The kind that lingers after something important burns down. "There's no controlled burns this week," Sam muttered, pulling out his phone for signal. Nothing. Then we saw the fire tower. It rose up like a skeleton against the fading blue sky. Blackened wood stretched skyward, its top platform sagging like it had been half swallowed by flame years ago. But that wasn't the weird part. The weird part was that we could see smoke rising from the windows, glowing orange from the inside like there was a fire lit now, not then. "I thought this tower was decommissioned," Liz whispered. "Looks like someone forgot to tell it that," I said. We laughed, but it died fast. And then we saw the figure. He stood at the top of the stairs, not moving, not pacing, just there. Watching. No flashlight. No coat, even though the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in the last hour. His ranger hat was perfect, clean. Too clean. Sam raised a hand. "Hey! Fire's active up there." The man didn't move. Then slowly, too slowly, he raised his hand in return. But the motion wasn't right. It was jagged. Delayed. Like someone had taught him the gesture, but he didn't know what it meant. We should have turned around. Should have run. Instead, we waved back. We never made it up the stairs. Sam was the first to say it out loud. "Something's wrong with him." His voice dropped when we got about halfway up the rickety staircase. The smoke didn't smell like wood anymore. It smelled sterile, like melted plastic and old bandages. And the air got colder. Not hotter. Colder. That should have been the second sign. Fire doesn't suck heat out of the air. We reached the last platform before the final stretch to the top, and that's when Liz screamed. The man, the ranger, was gone. No creak of footsteps, no movement, just vanished. We stared at the platform above us for what felt like hours. Then I saw the first set of prints. Not boot prints, bare footprints. In ash. They led down the stairs, past us. "How'd he get by?" Liz hissed, backing against the railing. Sam's breath misted in the air. I didn't hear anything. I turned back toward the forest, squinting into the trees. The sun had officially dropped below the ridge. The trailhead we'd come from was a black smudge behind thick trunk. Then the tower groaned. Not just old wood creaking. It groaned. Like something alive, shifting. That's when we saw the faces. They were inside the tower, pressed against the soot-blackened windows. 3 of them. Pale, stretched thin, as if the skin had been laid over someone else's bones. Their mouths didn't move, but I felt their screams. Not sound, just vibration. A deep, gnawing dread that echoed in my ribs. I don't remember running down the stairs. Just the sting of pine needles slapping my face and the sound of Liz's ragged breathing next to mine. Sam was shouting something behind us. Then silence. When we turned around, Sam was gone. The only thing left was his backpack. Still zipped. Still full. And a single footprint beside it, bare, long-toed, pressed into fresh ash where there shouldn't have been any. Not in the forest. Not away from the tower. I picked up his bag and stared at the trees. There were no birds. No wind. No sign of where he'd gone. Only that feeling. The kind of cold that burns from the inside out. The kind of fire that doesn't need flame. We didn't sleep that night. Liz and I made it back to our camp, barely. We kept thinking Sam was just lost, just behind us. Maybe we'd find him poking at the fire pit like nothing happened. But the second we saw our tents, we knew something had changed. The flap to Liz's tent was unzipped. But not all the way, just enough for someone to have crawled inside. And the zipper was muddy, ashy, like someone's hands had been dipped in both before opening it. Maybe Sam doubled back, Liz offered, her voice flat, hopeful but breaking. I nodded, though I didn't believe it. Yeah, probably waiting inside. But we both just stood there, staring at the half-open tent. Neither of us moved. I tried calling out again, even though we'd shouted his name for nearly a mile backtracking from the tower. Nothing. Liz leaned forward and tugged the flap wide. Empty sleeping bag. Crumpled. But not the way Liz had left it. The bag had been unzipped and zipped again, but unevenly. Twisted. As if someone had tried to get inside and didn't know how. There were boot prints too, hers. And just behind them, pressed half into the side of the sleeping bag, a different print. There. Long. Too long. I didn't walk like that, she murmured. I never stepped over there. She turned to me, and that's when I saw it, a shape in my tent. Not moving. Not making a sound. Just a silhouette sitting perfectly upright through the tent fabric, like someone was waiting cross-legged inside. Liz, I whispered. Don't scream. What? I didn't even finish my thought. I grabbed her arm and yanked her backward as hard as I could, stumbling away from the tent line. The shape didn't move. It just stayed there. Still. Staring. Waiting. That's when the campfire reignited. No matches. No spark. Just whoosh, and it was ablaze. But the flames weren't orange. They were blue. And cold. We ran. No more whispering. No more careful step. We just bolted into the forest. We left everything, packs, gear, tents, sanity. I don't know how long we ran. My lungs were bleeding by the time we stopped. Liz had tears frozen to her face, and I realized then that the temperature had dropped even lower. Winter level cold. Where the hell are we? She gasped. I pulled my phone. No bars. No GPS. Just one notification. Voice memo, Sam. Time stamped 5 minutes ago. I didn't play it. Not at first. Because Sam didn't have my phone. He hadn't recorded anything. And how the hell could he have sent a voice memo without signal? Liz saw the screen and backed up. Don't press it. I wanted to delete it. I tried. But my thumb hovered and then moved on its own. The recording played. Static first. Then a low hum, almost like someone breathing into the speaker. Then, I see you. The voice was Sam's, but wrong. Hollow. Like someone imitating him, but forgetting how humans breathe when they talk. I see you in the trees. I'm wearing your face now. It fits. Liz screamed and slapped the phone from my hand. It cracked against a rock and flickered. Then a second notification. Voice memo. Sam, too. Time stamped, now. We didn't play it. We didn't have to. Because that's when we heard footsteps behind us. There. Crunching frost. Slow. Measured. Like someone walking in boots, but they weren't boots. We turned around together. And saw Sam. Naked. Smiling. But his skin looked wrong. Stretched. Waxed. His shoulders didn't quite move when he breathed. He opened his mouth. And Liz ran. I didn't move. Because I realized. That wasn't Sam's mouth. It was stitched on. And smiling without pulling the skin. He blinked once, slowly. Then spoke again in my voice. I left you a message too. We ran again. This time I led. I didn't look back. I didn't wait. We passed old trees, crossed over rocks and half-frozen streams, moved with our hands out like we were swimming through the fog itself. I didn't even know where Liz was. I just hoped she was close. When we finally broke through the treeline, we found ourselves back on the gravel access road. A miracle. But the tower wasn't far. I didn't realize we'd looped until the smoke curled into view again. It wasn't like real smoke. It looked like a signal. Straight and deliberate. There were lights too, flickering through the tree canopy, just like they had the night before. And that's when Liz pointed. The ranger station below the tower had a small weatherproof bench, and on it sat an open spiral-bound logbook. The kind rangers used to note fire risk levels, bear sightings, weather. The kind that had been buried in ash yesterday. It was clean now. No soot. Pages white. And one of the pages had writing on it. Fresh ink. Still wet. I moved forward. The page read, 3:14 a.m. Returned. Sam absorbed. Liz fractured. Subject me, resisting assimilation. Watching. Dangerous. We'll retry at Fog Crest. I dropped the book. I didn't breathe. Liz crouched and touched the paper. The ink smeared onto her fingers. Wet. Still writing? We both looked down. A new line formed below the last. Recognition successful. We turned to run, but the ranger was standing at the top of the stairs again. Same as before. No flashlight. No radio. No breath. Liz snapped. I don't blame her. Her scream came out sharp and animal. She grabbed the logbook and bolted toward the tower steps, where the flame still flickered cold and blue. Liz! She didn't stop. I followed, too slow. She was already at the base of the steps, holding the journal above the flame. It didn't curl. It didn't blacken. The flame licked at it like it was tasting it, not burning it. But the book made a sound. A shriek. Not from her, not from the fire. From the damn journal itself. Pages flapped open on their own. Wind tore around her. And then, the page flipped again. Do not resist. She hurled the journal into the flame. It caught instantly. This time it did burn, but not like paper. It burned like flesh. The smoke smelled wrong. Sweet. Acidic. The tower's lights flickered. The shadows beneath the stairs warped. And the ranger. He twitched. Just once. Like a puppet whose strings jerked from too far away. Liz turned, eyes wild. Did you see that? He blinked. One eye. Then the other. And then, he stepped down, slowly. 1 foot at a time. The same deliberate rhythm as Sam's bare feet crunching through the forest. And now we could hear others. Not behind us. From the trees. Shape. Too tall. Too symmetrical. Every one of them with stitched necks. Some in ranger gear. Some in stolen coat. One still wearing part of a sleeping bag, dragging it behind like skin. And every one of them turned at once. To me. And said in the same voice. My voice. Welcome back. I don't remember the run. I just remember the noise. Feet on gravel, something rustling the tree line like fabric dragging through snow, and Liz screaming my name behind me. But not the same way she had before. This scream had something layered in it. Not just fear. Recognition. Like she'd seen something she shouldn't have. The tower disappeared behind us, smoke swallowed up by trees and mist. My lungs were fire. My legs barely worked. But I kept running until I saw the curve in the gravel, and beyond that, the ranger truck. It was parked exactly where it had been before. Untouched. Undisturbed. Too perfect. Liz reached it first and flung the door open. I scrambled to the driver's side and dropped into the seat. That's when I saw the dash. No keys. No ignition light. The engine wasn't even trying to turn over. My hands shook as I pulled down the sun visor. Nothing. I yanked open the glove box. Empty except for an old trail map and something that looked like a broken compass. I reached beneath the seat, heart slamming against my ribs. Where the hell are they? Liz shouted, slamming her fist on the dash. But I already knew. I didn't want to say it out loud, but it felt true in my bones. They never left the truck. Because the truck never arrived here by anyone real. Liz started crying. I looked up, and through the windshield, I saw something in the rearview mirror. Not a reflection. Not us. It was the ranger again. Only this time, he wasn't standing. He was crouched on all fours, arms long and bent like they had too many joints. His stitched head tilted slowly. His eyes were still unblinking. He moved too fast. Before either of us could react, the back door slammed shut. From the inside, We both turned, but there was nothing in the back seat, just the sound of the old truck creaking under shifting weight. The dome light flickered on, then off, then back on, and I swear to God, there were fingers on my shoulder. Not mine. Not Liz's. I swung wildly, elbow connecting with something wet. Liz screamed again, but I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was looking at the passenger seat, because the Ranger was sitting in it now. Still upright, arms folded neatly in his lap. His hat sat perfectly on his head. His eyes stared straight ahead. But his skin was peeling around the edges, where it met the shirt collar, where it pulled at the jawline. Like the mask was no longer sticking. Liz tried to bail. Her door wouldn't open. I hit mine. Locked. The windows fogged instantly from the inside. I pressed against the windshield and wiped a patch clear. And that's when I saw the others. Every trailhead we passed, every clearing we'd run through, the fog hadn't followed us. It had beaten us here. And inside it stood a dozen more silhouettes. Some wore Ranger uniforms. Some were naked. Some looked like Liz. And one of them looked like me, only taller and stretched. Like the bones had outgrown the skin. The Ranger beside me finally moved. He reached for the steering wheel. The truck started on its own. No keys. Just a low rumble like something growling underground. Liz was sobbing now. And I whispered, "This isn't real. We never left the fire tower." The Ranger turned to me, just slightly. His jaw unhinged. And from somewhere deeper than his throat came a voice I recognized. Sam's voice. It said, "Correct." The truck moved without input. No pedals pressed. No wheel turning. Just motion. We sat frozen. I don't know how long. The Ranger's hand rested lightly on the steering wheel, like it was for show. The headlights cut through fog that had no source, no origin, no end. Liz clutched her seatbelt like a child holds a stuffed animal, gripping it not for safety, but for faith. I reached for my phone. Still dead. Then I tried the radio. Static. Until it wasn't. A voice came through, familiar and distorted, like a cassette warped in the sun. It said, "Station Echo 9 reporting status, all assets returning to perimeter." Then a burst of feedback. Then silence. Liz blinked. "Did that say assets?" I stared out the window. We weren't on a trail anymore. We weren't even on a road. The trees were gone. The forest had become silhouettes. Not shadows, just outlines of what trees once were. Like someone drew them and forgot to color them in. The truck finally slowed. The Ranger turned off the ignition, even though the truck never made a sound to begin with. We were parked in front of a building. It wasn't on any map I'd ever seen. It looked like the Firewatch Tower, but wrong. Stunted. Heavy. Built entirely of stone instead of wood, and older than anything man had built in this part of the country. I looked at Liz. She shook her head violently. "We're not going in there." The Ranger opened his door. Smoke rolled out of the building in slow spirals, curling across the gravel like fingers beckoning us forward. The stitched man didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He waited. We followed him. I don't know why. We could have run, screamed, taken our chances with the woods. But every direction felt wrong. Every escape route was more horrifying than what lay ahead. So we stepped out of the truck into the cold air. The fog here was heavy but unmoving, like it was waiting, too. The stone building had one door. No windows. A rusted sign above it read, "Station 9" in faded black paint. The door opened before we touched it. Inside was heat. Real, crackling heat. Not warmth, but furnace heat. Oppressive. And the smell of wood smoke, melting plastic, and something sweet and rotting. It looked like a ranger station at first. Maps on the wall. Logbooks. Radios. Desks and plastic chairs. But everything was wrong. The maps were covered in symbols that didn't match any trail system. The radios pulsed with static even though none were plugged in. And the logbook on the desk had entries that repeated over and over. He blinked today. Reset required. They called out roll. One answered back with someone else's voice. The suit isn't holding. Recommend replacement. I turned to Liz. She was already walking toward the back of the station, toward the hatch in the floor we hadn't seen. It was iron, unlatched, open. The ranger stepped down first, vanishing into the dark below. Liz looked at me one last time. I shook my head. Please, don't, she said. I think this is where they make them. Then she descended into the dark. I didn't want to follow, but I knew I would, because every story we'd been told was a lie. The fire watch tower? Just a lure. The truck? A carriage. The uniforms? Skins. And down there? That's where they built the new ones. We found the originals, folded up in the walls. The stairs down weren't made for feet. They weren't stairs at all, not really. Just steep rungs carved into concrete, more like a ladder angled into darkness. The deeper I went, the hotter it got. And the walls, Jesus. They were wet. Not with moisture, but something thicker. Gelatinous. I could feel it through my boots when I reached the bottom. Liz stood motionless. The stitched ranger was gone. No echo of step. No door creaking. Just Liz. Frozen in front of a long, flickering hallway lined with doors, each marked with a 4-digit number and the word asset. She whispered, "They're not all rangers." I stepped past her and opened the first door. I shouldn't have. Inside was a man, or had been. A person, completely intact, but compressed, folded, bent in angles I didn't know a human body could take. His limbs were twisted behind him, his jaw unhinged, eyes wide open and fixed to nothing. He wore a firewatch jacket. Same patch on the shoulder. Same stitched badge. Liz backed away and opened another. Same thing. Again. And again. Room after room. Folded people. Crushed into shells of uniforms. Like they'd been used and put back in their original packaging, only it didn't quite fit anymore. But the last door was open. Not empty. Breathing. We both heard it. Wheezing. Slow. Wet and angry. Then a voice, not from inside the room but from a loudspeaker mounted in the corner above us. "You've been identified as incompatible with station requirements. Return to the vehicle. Your memory log will be erased. Your memory log will be erased. I grabbed Liz's hand. We ran. Not back to the ladder, but deeper. Past the rooms. Through a hallway painted in trail symbols and something like blood, into a room lit only by one burning bulb. And on the table in the middle of that room, a new uniform. Laid out perfectly. Next to it, a scalpel. Liz said, "They already made one for you." She was shaking. I kept telling her, "Don't touch it, Liz. We're leaving. This isn't how it ends." But she stepped toward it. It wasn't hypnotic. It wasn't that kind of horror. She wasn't possessed. She was surrendering. She said, "You don't understand. It's not about being taken. It's about being chosen. No. I've been coming to these woods since I was 12. Alone. Waiting. My name was on the list already." "Liz, what list?" "There is no list." She picked up the jacket, held it to her body, and whispered, "I never blinked either." Then she slipped the jacket on. Her posture changed. Bones cracked, quick, subtle. Her hands curled into fists and uncurled. Her face didn't shift, but her eyes. They stopped seeing me. Stopped recognizing me. She turned, slow and mechanical, and walked back toward the exit. The speaker crackled again. "Station replacement successful. Roll will continue. Asset identified. Liz, status. Accepted." I backed away from her. From it. Ran the opposite direction, up a side stairwell I hadn't seen before. I kept running. Back to the truck. Back to the tree line. Back to the real world, if there still was one. When I finally reached the ranger tower we'd passed on the hike in, it was different. New paint. A different name on the plaque. The windows were lit again. And Liz? She was at the top. Standing in full uniform, hand resting on the railing, smiling down at me. Not waving. Not calling out. Just watching. Unblinking. I didn't run home. I didn't call the cops. I sat in my truck, keys still dangling, doors still open, just staring up at that tower. She hadn't moved. The fog was denser now, and yet I could see her clearly. Every detail, like the air around her, was exempt from distance. She looked real. Not stitched. Not twisted. But I knew it wasn't her. I whispered to myself, Liz is gone. Still, I didn't leave. I needed to understand. That's when I heard it. Not through my ears, but through the radio, faint at first, then louder as I reached across the console to turn the dial. Except it wasn't on any station. No frequency. Just static and a voice cutting through. Asset 47 in place. Conformity reached. Initializing protocol, crescent replacement. My hand froze. Another voice replied, lower, almost insectal. Confirmed. Next, candidates moving into range. Candidates? That's when headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. Another car pulling up. A couple. Young. College age. Laughing. They had hiking gear. They waved at me like I was just another camper. I didn't wave back. I yelled, go back. Don't hike tonight. They paused. The girl leaned out her window and smiled. We're just parking. We saw the listing, said the old tower trail was open again. My stomach turned. They'd opened the tower again. They were baiting people. I turned the key. Slammed my door. But the second I hit reverse, my engine sputtered. Died. I turned the key again. Nothing. In the tower, Liz had moved. She was stepping back from the railing, slow, steady, like a wind-up doll returning to its drawer. In the back seat of the couple's car, a shape moved. It wasn't a backpack. I whispered, they're not reporting to us. They were stalking the woods. And Liz wasn't watching me leave. She was watching someone arrive. By the time I managed to get the truck started, the woods weren't the same. I know how that sounds. I've hiked this part of the state my whole life. I've used every trail app, cross-referenced every satellite map. But the road I took to get here? Gone. Just trees. Like it was peeled back. Instead, there was a new sign where the gravel road had been. Trail Loop C13, East Entry Only. Emergency exits locked. Locked? My headlights flickered. The trail entrance flickered. And in the space between seconds I saw them. Rangers. At least 6. All identical uniforms. Some male. Some female. All with the same waxy stare. Same stiff stride. Each walking into the fog from different points, like actors taking their marks. Except no one was watching. Except maybe whatever was listening on that radio. I turned the dial again. Same signal. Next, candidates approaching station perimeter. I saw the couple disappear down the path, laughing. I screamed. Nothing stopped them. Not even the ranger. The one closest to me. The one who stepped out from behind a tree and tapped the hood of my truck with the exact same rhythm Liz used when she was nervous. 3 tap. Pause. 2 more. Like a habit. A glitch in the programming. But it wasn't Liz. It wasn't anyone. I put the truck in drive. Sped forward. Swerved around the figure. It didn't move. Just turned its head slightly, like a security camera tracking a bird. As I left the forest, my phone signal returned. All at once, a single message pinged. Thanks for visiting Crescent Trail. You've been counted. Under it, a link. I tapped it. The site was down. But the header said it all. Take a hike. Never come back. And when I looked in my mirror again, there was a new sticker on the back window. A triangle. Inside it, a stitched eye. I never bought that sticker. But now I can't remove it. It's part of the glass. It was sometime past 3 a.m. when a low rustle stirred the silence. Cam and Julian froze where they lay in their tent, eyes wide open, barely breathing. The fire had gone out hours earlier. What remained was the kind of cold that numbed the skin and thickened every breath. They hadn't spoken since they'd heard the knocking earlier that evening. But now, something else. Outside their nylon shelter, soft crunching footsteps circled slowly in the snow. They weren't heavy or panicked. They were deliberate, intent. Julian mouthed, "Bear?" Cam shook his head. There hadn't been tracks, and whatever was outside wasn't sniffing or pacing erratically. It was following the perimeter of the tent, exactly. A shadow passed along the tent wall. Then it stopped. They could both see it, just a silhouette backlit by the moon through the thin fabric. A tall figure. A wide-brimmed ranger hat. Shoulders just slightly too broad, and arms too long. It didn't move. Just stood there, watching. Then something brushed against the tent, right where Julian's foot was. It pushed in, not aggressively, not slicing, just testing. Julian yanked his leg back and whispered, "We have to run. Out the back." Cam hesitated, then nodded, pulling the zipper silently at the rear corner of the tent. But as it started to move, the zipper caught. The figure outside reacted instantly. It leaned closer. A hand, or something like it, pressed flat against the fabric. It was skinless. Julian threw his shoulder into the tent wall and burst through, tearing fabric and scrambling into the snow. Cam followed, fumbling for the flashlight as they ran. It clicked on, and caught the last glimpse of the thing. It had no face, no features, just smooth, stretched skin, and stitched edges where its jawline should have been. They didn't stop running until the tower came into view again, still burning, still empty. But as they reached the clearing, something stood at the base of the tower, bathed in firelight. Another ranger. But not the same one. This one was shorter. Female. Same hat. Same stitched neck. They didn't stop to look. They ran past the tower and into the trees. Toward anything but that. The burn pattern in the trees. 2 weeks later, in another part of the forest, 2 counties east, a fire suppression crew was doing routine checks on a narrow ridge trail scorched by lightning. What they found wasn't natural burn. 5 trees, exactly 5, stood in a perfect circle. Charred only at the top. The bark peeled downward in ragged spiral patterns. But there were no signs of actual fire in the underbrush. No scorch on the ground. In the center of the circle was a ranger's badge, melted to the rock. Not modern. It was old, heavy, brass, and scratched into the stone beneath it. They took his face. Then they gave it back. The team reported it. The Park Service filed a note. And that was it. But one of the firefighters took a picture. He posted it that night under a burner account. It made the rounds on Reddit. Just a photo of a badge and a weird burn ring. No context. The comments section blew up. One user claimed they'd seen a figure like that near a watchtower in Utah, staring silently from the trees. Another said their grandfather, a retired ranger, had a scar just like that stitching. But the comment that stuck was from a now-deleted account. It read, "If you hear your name in the woods, don't answer. If you see them blinking, they aren't done becoming you." The account disappeared 10 minutes later. And 3 days after that, the man who posted the original image? He stopped responding to texts. His friends said he was heading to Glacier National Park for one last job before taking time off. He never came back. The last photo on his phone showed a fire lookout tower. No fire. Just the tower. And someone standing at the top. Looking down. Still. Watching. Waiting for roll to be called. Trail 12 wasn't marked on any new park maps, but old rangers knew it. A maintenance path. A shortcut between 2 towers that had both been decommissioned in the 90s. No one used it anymore. Except, apparently, someone was. 2 hikers, Angela and Miles, took Trail 12 by accident after a fallen sign misled them. They followed it for 2 hours without realizing the trees had gotten too close, the air too quiet. No wind. No birds. Even their voices felt muffled. Miles kept checking the GPS. It says we're moving, but the location hasn't changed. Angela stared at the path ahead. Do you smell that? It wasn't smoke. Not quite. More like burnt cloth and antiseptic. Like something preserved too long, then scorched. That's when they saw the boot. Not just any boot, a ranger's boot. Sticking out from under a tangle of bramble, toes pointed up, like someone had been dragged off the trail and left there. Miles stepped forward and knelt to touch it. "Don't!" Angela's voice was sharper than she meant, but Miles froze. Something in her tone got through. They backed away together. And just then Angela turned. Behind them, a man stood in the middle of the trail. Uniform, hat, badge, but no eyes. Where the sockets should have been was waxy, stretched flesh, stitched in an X pattern. He pointed down the trail and said calmly, "You're late." On a rainy Monday morning, a pair of interns at the park archives in Missoula were logging old tower logbooks into digital record. One binder had no name, just a date, 1971. Inside were daily entries from a fire lookout named Lorne Haskins. Boring notes, mostly. Weather, sightings, boredom. Until the third week of August. Then it changed. August 18th. He came again. Knocked. I didn't open the door this time. Not until morning. August 20th. I swear he had my voice. He kept saying the same thing over and over, "You're next on the list." August 22nd. I burned the logbook. Threw it in the stove. But it was back on the table when I woke up. Same pages. Same ink. August 24th. He's wearing my old uniform. He doesn't blink. I think he's waiting for me to sleep. Final entry, August 25th. I don't think I'm me anymore. I think I'm the thing. But someone has to climb the tower. No one had ever mentioned this tower in modern records. The interns flagged it and brought it to a supervisor. But when they checked the logbook again, it was blank. Every page, empty. Except one note at the back, scrawled in graphite. Still watching. In 2013, a drone survey of the Kootenai National Forest caught something unusual, a firewatch tower not listed on any database. Deep in a ravine near Trappers Pass. No access roads, no trails, just trees, and the narrow outline of a structure perched on a stone bluff. A ranger crew was dispatched to investigate, but when they arrived, there was no tower. The coordinates were correct, the drone footage undeniable, but the cliffside was empty. Until sunset. Then, like a mirage, the top of a tower shimmered into view. Just the peak. Faint and half-faded, like a photo burned at the edges. One of the rangers, Kyle, walked toward it. As he approached, he vanished from view. Not with a scream. Not with a sound. Just gone. The other two called for backup, marked the location, and hiked out in the dark. They never made it. 2 days later, only one body was found, twisted in the trees a mile away. Not Kyle. Not either of the other rangers. Someone else, wearing a ranger uniform dated 1967. Dog tag said C. Harrow. That name meant nothing, until a search through old tower logs showed it. C. Harrow, assigned to Tower 8 in 1967. The same tower. The one they still hadn't found. Late one fall, a group of night hikers crossed into Bitterroot National Forest on a full moon challenge. They joked about bears. Took photos of their headlamps glowing in the fog. By 3 a.m., the fun was wearing off. They were cold, tired, and not entirely sure where they were. Then someone up ahead said it. A voice. Crisp, calm, calling a name. Jennifer Marks. Everyone stopped. Jennifer froze. That's my name. Then another. Derek Lim. And another. Harold Jennings. One by one, names were read off. Every single person in the group. No one moved. The voice came from behind a tree. They shined their lights and saw the hat first. Then the face. Expressionless. Pale. Eyes like dried milk. The stitched neck flexed as he turned. "No one is excused," he said. "Roll is mandatory." They ran. 2 didn't make it out. The rest filed a report with the rangers. But when they went back to the site, there was no evidence. No voice. No tower. Just a smoldered circle of ash where the log said Tower 11 used to be. But it was gone. Removed from maps in 1975. Destroyed in a fire. Still, the ranger comes back. because every class needs a substitute. And someone always takes role.